So it is interesting. Where are we with Black Adam? Well, it has experienced a bit of a drop off, I'll be honest. Now, I do like the film. I think it's a pretty good film, and the quote critics and their low ratings, I think, are very much exaggerating the quality of Black Adam being one of the worst things of all time. But financially, it is experiencing not major difficulties, but it is doing less well than even I expected. On the one hand, there is good news, which is bad news, that it does appear like it will be released in China. We don't know with these things, but officially at this point, it will come out in China and they will get a little bump in terms of the box office. Perhaps not that much, tens of millions, but these things do add up. And we're going to check in on two analyses, one from Dan Murrell and the other from Geeks and Gamers. And to give him a lot of credit, Murrell does concede that there is a bit of a skewing of the numbers because if you look at the numbers properly, there isn't anything really shocking what's going on with Black Adam. It's actually doing a lot better than comparable films, including Eternals with the MCU. But for whatever reason, critics are still pretty pessimistic about Black Adam.
Day and date streaming release available on HBO Max. So, of course, we will continue to track Black Adam and we'll look at where it is box office wise right now. It's a little bit below where Eternals was at this point in its run. But I think it's just another case where every story is different, every week is different, and every movie is different. And I will continue to track Black Adam's progress. And if it does fall off and it does not end very strongly, both domestically and worldwide, then we will cover that on this show.
Well, I'll give Dan credit. He does acknowledge, yes, he is biased. He did come in with a certain expectation. Now, I don't believe him when he says, but guys, I'm being fair and even handed. I don't know. There seems to be really this weird, obsessive hatred with The Rock and Black Adam. I don't know why. I don't know where. I don't know what he did. Seem to love bashing Black Adam. But audiences are staying loyal. It is, yes, not doing as well as expected, especially given the critic ratings. And I was surprised that Whedon's Justice League is technically slightly stronger. You have to look at these numbers carefully and properly. It's not just the short term box office, there's the longer term DVD sales. Will people rent it? Will people stream it? So on and so forth. So I don't think there's any reason to worry. Over its long lifetime, Black Adam will do just fine. No need to worry. The sequel is happening. Will it be in conjunction with Superman? Who knows? Still a lot of unknown factors how well Black Adam is going to do. But as of now, it is sort of a milestone for The Rock. It's a very strong opening. It's slightly weaker than his other films. That's true. The Fast and Furious, as well as even Jumanji, did do a little bit better. And they did better, of course, because of China. So here we're going to get into the Chinese end of the story. I can't cover the whole complexity of what China is. That's beyond the scope of any one video. It's an incredibly difficult situation. But as always, instead of looking at it with some nuance, the geeks and gamers are pushing the anti-communist conspiracy theory with Elon Musk.
Hollywood, especially from studios like Warner Brothers, their heavy reliance upon China and the China money. In trying to secure their films to be solvent. It's just kind of, again, it's a sad state of things, and I'm going to call out any studio that does those dealings with China. Warner Brothers and Disney happen to be some of the biggest ones, but they are definitely not the only ones to ever have done that before. And yeah, if your financial success is reliant upon and contingent upon the Chinese Communist Party, then I would have to say that, hey, yeah, your film must not be all that great. Because guess what? There are some incredible films like Joker, for instance, that were able to make $1 billion, a rated R film at that, all without China. There have been several films since then. Top Gun Maverick, another great example. This year was able to make $1.4 billion, all without China.
Well, that was a whole lot of gibberish, but the basic gist is yes, it is getting a Chinese release date at this moment. It will be in November, and presumably they want to get in just before Wakanda Forever also hits theaters. It's a lot of tricky negotiations. And even without China, let's say it doesn't release in China, it still has to release in Japan, and the Japanese box office could be strong enough. So it is going to get a little bit of relief from these other markets it hasn't tapped into just yet. I do find this a fascinating story, and despite the very, again, skewed coverage, it is true that The Rock and the MCU and Warner Brothers has relied upon China, but, and I hate to concede anything to the geeks and gamers, but it is true Joker did not use the Chinese box office. Joker isn't a good comparison. Joker was made for a lot less money, And the chances of it being in China was always going to be very small. I mean, whatever you want to say about Joker, it's a very graphic film. And although I'm not the biggest fan of Joker, I would credit the filmmakers with being consistent there. It is a very brutal, graphic film. And again, those kinds of films rarely get into the Chinese market. There are exceptions like horror films, but even then, studios are willing to cut things, and also studios are willing to change the marketing, change the film for the Chinese marketing. China is always going to be a special factor, and I do take these things seriously. He talks about genocide. I assume he means the Muslim population in China. He doesn't really specify. He doesn't even specify what this conspiracy is with the Biden administration. I don't think Twitter necessarily even had a pro China bias before this. I don't know. I mean, Multiverse of Madness, as far as I know, did not release in China. It did very well financially. And that is a good comparison because I did show up for the theaters in both cases. And I won't lie, Multiverse of Madness had a massive audience. Black Adam is doing pretty well, but it is not getting the kind of massive welcome reception that Multiverse of Madness, which did well with audiences and critics, and did have initially a much more massive kind of push than Black Adam. It's not clear why. Maybe this was just the wrong timing. Maybe they should have saved this for spring, moved the schedule a little bit. I don't know. So, comparatively, Black Adam is doing well. But from another angle, it is doing a little bit more poor than it should be comparatively to other DC films. And that is where we are with Black Adam.